Hello there, my friends. Welcome back to the Vaults Remastered. Today's episode, we're going to be looking at Leviathan's Rise. This is going to be unleashing several Wyrmseed heritages. Hey, what's a Wyrmseed, you ask? Well, if you want to know all the nitty-gritty details, I would suggest you go back and watch Session 3A, in which I discuss this ancestry. It is my Pathfinder 2nd edition conversion of the 5th edition and prior edition Dungeons and Dragons Dragonborn. Specifically, we're looking at the Facet Wyrmseed or the Gem Scale Dragonborn. This episode is going to get into the various heritages that I've come up with for this ancestry. I have 6 of them for you. I've been waiting to drop this bomb on you for a couple weeks after introducing the idea in the original video. So without further ado, let's just get down to it because I know you're not here to look at me. You want to see these beautiful creations here. Let's review where we left off. We have created a new ancestry known as the Facet Wyrmseed. Here is their overall mechanics. They are going to be uncommon in my game world. They have a starting hit points of 10. Their size is medium. Their base movement is 25 feet. They have ability boosts in strength, constitution, a free one, or an optional heritage based. More on that in a minute. They have an ability flaw, which is your choice, or optional heritage based. Again, more on that in a minute. Languages, undercommon. They speak the Draconic tongue, of course, and others depending on their intelligence modifier. Traits, humanoid, Wyrmseed, which is, again, my Dragonborn version, and the dragon itself. And then onto the abilities that these creatures have, this ancestry has. These are the little special traits that they start the game with. They have low light vision, as pretty much every single one of my ancestries in my Vaults game world, which is based upon the Darklands, based upon the Underdark. It's a subterranean world, so you need to be able to see. So pretty much all of my ancestries I'm creating out of the box got low light vision. A few have dark vision as well. Then after that, they have 2 additional abilities, again out of the box, Draconic Breath and Psionic Talent. Now, you'll notice the things that are highlighted in red, these are the ones that are going to be heritage based. And they're also the reason, well, partially the reason for all the other ancestry nonsense I've been presenting and will present in the future. These guys are really the core reason why I have 3 abilities for each of my ancestries. Because I needed 3 for my Dragonborn or my Wyrmseed, these Facet Wyrmseed. Because they have specific heritages. They have specific scale colors or scale gems. And if you know anything about the history of dragons in Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, and pretty much many other derived games, the scale color, the scale type, the whatever it is that they're wearing on their outside determines breath attacks, determines damage resistances, determines a lot of these flavorful specific lineage type of abilities, and you just can't separate them from the beast itself. So if you are familiar with core rule Pathfinder, the ancestors typically have a heritage, half a dozen heritages, let's say, and each ancestry has 1, typically, maybe 2, special ability. All of mine have 3, and it kind of started here with the Dragonborn, with the Wyrmseed, because they were my first conversion way back a few months ago, before the remaster even was a concept, because there was no intention for Pathfinder to have remaster, because the OGL debacle hadn't occurred yet. So anyway, these guys kind of got it started. I wanted to maintain the flavor of the stock original dragons, and I couldn't make it work with just your typical rules as written type of ancestry creation where you have a single ability and then all of your other flavor abilities come from a heritage, which gives you 1 more ability, and then whatever feats you picked. I couldn't do it that way because the dragons are so iconic and so connected to their scale, gems, and colors. everybody needed to have specific breath weapons. Specific in the case of the gemstone dragons, they have psionic abilities, and just specific damage resistance and all those other things. So that had to be cooked into the heritages, had to be cooked into the ancestry immediately. I couldn't have a design where you picked different types of breath weapons from your feats or pick different types of damage resistances. Yeah, maybe I could have, but then I think it would have turned into people picking 6 different breath weapons, and maybe that's not a bad idea, but for me it broke the tradition, so I didn't want to do that. So I baked into the system what you're seeing here, these optional heritage based or specific heritage based abilities. So when we look at my heritages, you're going to see each one of them is going to offer a specific heritage ability boost, which ties into their flavor, ties into their theme, a specific heritage flaw option, a specific draconic breath attack, a specific psionic talent, and they're also going to have a specific damage resistance as well. All based upon their gems, scales, their facet color for these Wyrmseed. So let's go ahead and dive in because I think it'll make more sense once you actually see some examples. All right, so our first contestant is going to be the amethyst. We're going to talk about the amethyst. Second, we're going to look at the emerald. Third is the obsidian. Fourth is the opal. Fifth is sapphire. Sixth is topaz. And as I just said, each one of those is going to have its own flavor of these 5 options over here. Boost, flaws, breath, psionic talent, and this primal resistance. Intricately connected. You can't separate them. Amethyst. Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous amethyst dragonborn. DALL-E knocked these out of the park. I had tried many other AI art, programs prior to this. I could never get a good dragonborn. And then I found DALL-E. Well, DALL-E kind of found me because they put him and coupled it with my Chat GPT, which I've been using a whole bunch as my muse for much of my creations. And when they added DALL-E as part of the Chat GPT Plus, which I've purchased, I started using it, and it's just so simple. You have a conversation similar to Chat GPT, and it starts creating. As a matter of fact, I use Chat GPT to help me generate the image prompts that DALL-E then uses. It's a genius pairing. Love it. Great job, OpenAI. Anyway, Amethyst Wyrmseed, here's what we've got for them. Their ability boost is wisdom. Their ability flaw is intelligence. Now, stepping back a little bit, I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds on this, but I've done a lot of background research on the various, gemstone or gem dragons and, their personalities, their traits, etc. I had homebrewed those for 5th edition way back when I was playing, 5e 3-4 years ago when I first started my campaign. And so I had already a lot of information about, what special things the different dragons were known for, their traits and abilities. So from that, I have pulled these ideas here. And the specific reference I'm talking about was the Draconomicon, I believe. A 4th edition product, although I think there's also a 3rd edition version. Anyway, go back and look at the old versions of D&D. I am telling you, they are gold mines for all kinds of great ideas for your homebrew, whether you're doing 5th edition D&D or Pathfinder like I'm doing. So much was there. So much was just thrown away, it seemed, with 5th edition when it came out. One of my pet peeves. Anyway, Amethyst, they have a Hammerbolt breath attack. They have a psionic talent of a psychic slam. And they have primal resistance of force damage. Their breath attack is just a beam of force energy. It comes out and just smashes people. The other thing is the gem dragons, what I call Leviathans, my facet Wyrmseed parents, they are highly psychic psionic talent creatures. It has to do with their gemstone scales somehow capturing and amplifying, magnifying energy, psychic energy, and they're able to then channel it. At least that's how I explain it in my lore. And then they have resistance to their breath weapon, which is going to deal force damage. So diving a little bit deeper on the amethyst, here's the lore behind this creature. Amethyst Wyrmseed tend to have an arrogant personality with a strong desire for social order and security. While they can be quite persuasive and charming, they are more often intimidating and dismissive of others' ideas and opinions, preferring to rely on their own ego and intellect. They have a deep love for the old ways when there was law and order governing the people and a clear hierarchy among dragonkind. As an amethyst, you have a striking appearance with shimmering violet scales that catch the light and lend you a regal bearing that commands attention. Your eyes are a bright, glowing purple, which can be quite unsettling to those who are not used to them. You have an air of mystery and otherworldliness about you, and your psychic abilities only serve to enhance this impression. Your ancestors served as constables on the streets of Seventh Yi and as adjudicators in Sarnix's court. Pause real quick. Seventh Yi is a Pathfinder city lore. I believe it was written into the serpent kind, which in D&D terms would be like the Yuan-Ti. Snake people who were one of the original races, which actually is similar to my game lore. If you haven't watched my Primordials series, the Primordials of the Vaults, I invite you to go back and look at that because the very opening video talks a little bit about the lore of the game world. And one of the concepts is that the snake people in my game world were the first sentient humanoid mortal species created by one of the gods for worship. Anyway, I stole this name from Pathfinder to serve as my Facet Wyrmseed's home city in the depths of the vaults. Seventh Yi was an underground city. So that's where that name comes from. Sarnix is my reskin of the Ruby Dragon, which was Sardior. Again, Dungeons and Dragons lore there. Borrowed that, reskinned him. He's got a whole unique set of lore. I'm going to get to that when I make a primordial video of my Dragon King, my Leviathan King, Sardior, and his Leviathan Queen, who was Cerades, and she is now known as Laradress. Side note. Anyways, coming back to this. So, their ancestors were constables on the streets of this ancient city, served as adjudicators in the Ruby King's court. You share their intensity and determination to speak and uphold the truth. You exude confidence and have a talent for inspiring others to take up your standard while cowing those who disagree. You are known for your strength of will and ability to overcome adversity, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Your enemies find you a force to be reckoned with, while your determination and resilience makes you a valuable ally. If you wish to play someone with a clear sense of right and wrong, willing to uphold the law even when chaos is banging on the gates, then play an Amethyst Wyrmseed. Dun dun dun. Let's continue. Now I'm going to look at each of their special abilities in detail. We've got the Hammer Bolt. This is their version of Draconic Breath. So if you pick an Amethyst Wyrmseed, you're going to get a special ability, the Breath Attack, and it's going to be this Breath Attack. So every D4 rounds, you can reuse it. You can channel primal energy into your Draconic Breath to unleash a devastating bolt of force in a 30-foot line. Each creature in its path must make a reflex save, taking 2d6 force damage on a failure. The DC is 10 plus your Constitution modifier plus your level. I'm probably just going to reword this to be like your class DC. I think that's easier. I think, having done some of the other remaster stuff for some of my other ancestries, that was a simple way to set a DC without having to worry about specific ability scores, blah, blah, blah. I think that might be the easier way. And the class DCs also level up better than, let's say, a con mod, which is going to get locked into whatever your con is. Where your class, you're leveling up and you're going to get more and more powerful. I think that makes more sense. So that's something you'll see me go back with a re-edit on these. If they make a critical success against your breath weapon, no damage. Half damage on a success. Critical fail, double damage, and the target gains the polarized condition until the end of your next turn. On your next turn, you can use an action to discharge a bolt of lightning from a polarized creature you can see as a secondary attack against one of its adjacent allies. If that ally fails a reflex save, again against your class DC, it takes 2d6 electricity damage. The damage is reduced or increased as above. However, it does not become charged on a critical failure. So, in other words, if they critical success, they take no damage. Criticals or success, half damage. Critical fail, they're going to take double the 2d6. But there is no extra polarized condition on top of that. Once somebody's discharged their this polarized energy, they can't be jumped again unless you blast them with your raw breath weapon. Although, probably the way this is worded, it would seem that you can only discharge one person, then they're depolarized for the rest of. Might have to think about that. Maybe put a time limit on it. I don't know. Maybe you can repolarize them with another attack. Probably be easier that way than trying to bookkeep who was discharged once and who can't be discharged again. That might just be easier that once they spark, they're done until you blast and they might get jumped to again. That could be a fun little game. I don't know. Got to think about it, right? Oops. You can heighten the damage of the primary breath weapon by a d6 by spending an additional action to use it. The damage increases to 3d6 at 5th level, 4d6 at 11, 5d6 at 17. So it's going to naturally boost up every 6 levels as is. And I gotta double check the damage increase to see if that's standard for these types of abilities. Because some of the ones I've written, I have them boosting every 4 levels to go along with when you get ancestry feats. So I don't know if this is something I need to look at for that as well. Again, ladies, gents, this is Homebrew. You're going to be adjusting. You're going to be making changes, right? I'm not publishing and selling this thing, so I have to look at some of these stats and change them as I go. And a lot of the stuff, kind of part of this process of making these videos, is it allows me to reflect upon my work as I go and make changes as I read them and hear it out loud. It makes me question some of my thinking in the first place. So, it is what it is. I'll go back and edit it as I need. All right, then the last little chunk that I need to show you for these Amethyst Wyrmseed is their psychic ability, their psionic talent, as well as their damage resistance. Psychic Slam is their talent. Prereqs, you got to be Amethyst. You can do this once per day. Although that maybe I need to make that more like the breath attack every D4. Maybe it's every D6. I don't know. Is one a day too restrictive? I'm not sure. If you have any thoughts on that, go ahead and post in the comments. I'll have to go and check any other ancestors out there that have an attack similar to this. Maybe look at I think it's the Mystic class. Might give me some ideas on frequencies as well. But anyway, the idea here is they're able to channel primal energy through their psionic talent. And the idea being that the primal energy of the earth is somehow collected, focused, and then channeled or whatever through their gem scales, through these facet Wyrmseed scales that they have. And they get the following ability. As an attack, you can create a telekinetic hand and attempt to slam a target you can see within 60 feet. The target must succeed on the fort save. Again, class. See, I have it as class DC here, so I need to go and change that in the breath attack. Or they're going to take 2d8 force damage. If the target is size large or smaller, you can move it up to 10 feet in a straight line. I should probably just reword this that as long as it's not larger than one size greater than you can move it. Because then I think that gives you the flexibility in case you're able to enlarge your own frame to a large, let's say, Wyrmseed. You then could move a huge creature with your slam. It just makes sense that if you get bigger, you can move bigger things. If you get smaller, you can only move smaller things. Anyway, you're able to push it 10 feet in a straight line. You can't lift the target off the ground unless it's already airborne or underwater. So you're able just to push it backward. You can't like lift it up over things and push it up on a shelf or something like that. Unless it's already flying or whatever. Then you could move it, let's say, diagonally. So this is pretty much just a straight slam and push it backward. Like your breath weapon, your talent's damage increases by a d8 at those respective levels. Pretty straightforward ability here, I think. I need to double check with the remastered rules because I think there's been some some adjustments. So I need to maybe clarify the forced movement type of thing here. Maybe give this a specific condition. Maybe just maybe I don't want to say it's grab, but I can look at the shove. Shove might give some sort of condition. And I was just thinking that what if I don't have any crit fail or success rules for this one, so I might have to go and give this a second pass with those, because I was just thinking maybe a crit fail is you knock it prone, right? Or it goes, you can move it 20 feet, something like that. Give it a little more kick if there's different degrees of failure. Now, some of these things you didn't think, or I didn't think of originally, just because, I'm converting from 5th edition where they don't have the degrees of failure or success where Pathfinder does. And I really like that aspect of Pathfinder. I like it for a lot of their different rules, but this in particular allows you to give some flexibility within your homebrew for attacks, because you've got those degrees of success and failure. So that's always something that I think D&D is sorely lacked. The whole save or suck mentality of many of their spells. This type of thing from a homebrew perspective is a great tool to use. I mean, I'm really finding, and this might seem odd to some because a lot of people, oh, Pathfinder, it doesn't need any changes. It's got great rules. Don't mess with it. You're going to break it. But I find this system completely encouraging homebrew, because there are so many rules and there's so much customization and so much flexibility within the system that as long as you stay within the system, you can homebrew to your heart's content. I think if you compare that to D&D, where there's really no hard guidelines to anything, it's a lot harder to homebrew in D&D, because sure, you have sort of the sky's the limit for your ideas, but that's also the problem. The sky's the limit makes it easy to go to the stratosphere and fly off into space with whatever you're doing, or slam into the ground, and it's terrible. So I like the idea that Pathfinder has a lot of the systems built in, and I can just adjust them, tweak them, put some more flavors here and there. It's awesome. Last thing here, Amethyst has the resilience, primal resistance, once per refocus. And so your psychic connection with the energy that holds, or both holds matter together and hurls it apart, grants you resistance to force damage. You can use this ability as a reaction when you take force damage, reducing the damage you take by an amount equal to your character level. So that's pretty powerful, pretty strong, especially at higher levels. But after you use this, you can't use it again until you take a refocus action, which with the remaster is like roughly every 10 minutes, an hour, whatever, as long as you're able to stop and take, I think it's a 10-minute time frame you need for the refocus. That might be a little bit too good now, because the original version I put together here was pre-remaster, so I need to go and double check. Maybe I need to make this tied into Constitution modifiers, as an example, or just once a day and that's it. So this could be too good with the easier refocusing now. We'll see. All right, so gave you a lot of the background reasons for my choices. The rest of the heritages I want to go through, I'm going to go through a little bit more quickly, because you have the basics of what I was shooting for here. So the rest is just going to be what I came up with for the other 5, what the flavors are. You'll probably see a similar need for some revisions as I go through those. So that's Amethyst. What's next for number 2? The Emerald Wyrmseed. Intelligence is your boost, optional boost. Your flaw is charisma, optional. Remember, you can choose to take free, so it could be anything, or choice on the flaw, whatever you want. Draconic breath, you got the tunnel tempest. Psionic talent is aerokinetic screen, and primal resistance is sonic damage. I believe the aerokinetic screen was actually loose concept from the kineticist that was out in 1st edition, if I'm not mistaken. Aerokinesis. All right, let's take a look at the lore. Emerald Wyrmseed possess a smooth and polished sheen to their scales, giving them the appearance of wearing a seamless Viridian suit of spiked armor. In battle, Emerald Wyrmseed are fierce and powerful adversaries, possessing the ability to psychically summon howling winds and blinding mists, as well as unleashing devastating blasts of air that can splinter rock. As an Emerald Wyrmseed, you share the same inquisitive yet cautious nature of your Leviathan forebears. Many Emerald Wyrmseed are avid collectors, historians, and scholars of ancient lore, not for monetary value or a sense of ownership, but as cautious gatekeepers, arbiters of what is forbidden knowledge or permissible study. Aside from self appointed guardians of lore, they also believe it to be their duty to be the keepers of history. Thus, they love to study and catalog artifacts of both arcane and historical value, and are known to join or operate networks of sages, delvers, and spies, such as the Emerald Order, to be the first to plumb a new ruin or be present to record history as it happens. Emerald Order, shout out, that is from Kobold Press. I think it was in their cults and factions, demon cults, and I forget the name of it. I think it was in there. Kobold Press product. Don't remember the exact name of it. But anyway, that's where I got that idea from. I'm just warping it to fit my game world. However, an emerald is no meager scholar. They are jealously, sometimes violently protective of the secrets they have collected, seeing it as their sacred duty to ward. They are loath to disclose the location of or grant access to the artifacts and relics under their watch, and will go to great lengths to safeguard them. Lastly, given their access to knowledge, both historical and current, these Wyrmseed can make for both dangerous political enemies and valuable repositories of information for those who have earned their trust. If you wish to play a keeper of knowledge and lore with formidable psychic abilities coupled with physical strength, perhaps even a member of a mysterious scholarly organization, the Emerald Wyrmseed is an excellent choice for you. All right, let's take a look at some of their mechanics here. The Tunnel Tempest is their breath attack. You unleash a swirling explosive burst of sound that can buckle stone in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in the cone must make a fortitude save, class DC, taking 2d6 sonic damage. Furthermore, if the ground in the area of the cone is made of earth or stone, it becomes difficult terrain, so you're shattering and crumbling it. So I kind of like this idea because you don't have to just use it as damage against targets. Let's say you're being pursued, you can use it as a control type of thing, a defensive ability. You crumple the ground, perhaps in a narrow corridor or something like that, making the enemy have to spend more of their movement just to get to you in melee range. Perhaps it's enough damage, the GM would have to come up with this, to cause a causeway or something like that to collapse. Who knows? That could be useful. Critical damage, half damage. Critical success, no damage, half damage. Double damage, and the critical fail effect here is deafening. You can heighten the damage of the breath weapon by d6, like you saw before. 3d6, 4d6, etc. Deafening, I gotta see if there is a number attached to that or not. If it's like deafened 1 or 2, I don't remember off the top of my head. Pathfinder has the values on some of their conditions, which, if you're not sure what that means, generally speaking, it is the number of rounds, I guess, that you're affected, or the number of, let's say, actions you'd have to do to clear it from your system. So if this was, let's say, deafened 2, the way that would work out is it would take 2 turns for that deafened condition to leave you. So it's a built-in way to prevent sort of like just, making everything a statue in the game and murdering it. Things can break loose just naturally. All right, then the last 2 things are its psionic talent, which is the aerokinetic screen. You can summon air into a shield of whirling wind that wards you from attack for up to 1 minute. As long as you sustain this shield, you have lesser cover. The shield does not require a hand to hold. So you may still wield weapons, cast spells, and carry a shield. However, your ranged weapon attacks suffer -2 circumstance penalty to hit. All right, so there you go. And then the Emerald Resistance is its final little perk. This is going to be damage resistance to sonic, so your connection to the vibrations and movements of air echoing through the narrow tunnels of the Underdark, should be Darklands or the Vaults now, grants you resistance to sonic damage equal to your character level. You can use this ability as a reaction when you take the sonic damage, reducing damage you take by that character level. and then you can refocus and get it back. So again, need to double check the refocus. I'm seeing a couple of little errors that I'm going to have to correct, but for the most part, that's the idea here. And that's what I think this image was pretty good at capturing, is the aerokinetic screen over here, where the Dragonborn is kind of like just shouting, yeah! And this sonic shield of, wind just kind of erupts around you to defend you from attacks, ranged attacks, that sort of thing. Okay, that is our emerald. What's next? The obsidian Wyrmseed. This one is really badass, if you don't mind me saying so. In my original version, my D&D 5e version, the obsidian Wyrmseed were not a eligible one of the sub races that you could play for my Dragonborn, but when I converted it over, I'm targeting 6 of heritages for each ancestry I'm creating. And this guy, he just had to be developed. Even though I was torn, because I have the rubies as well. Sorry, spoiler, I don't have rubies as an official heritage. They're sort of the secret 7th one that is more mythological. Lore reasons behind that. But the obsidians, similarly, were lore reasons for them not existing as a playable, race, sub-race. But with the remaster, with my game world changing because I ended my 5e game and rebirthed it as a Pathfinder game, that required some sort of cataclysmic events, which I discussed, go way back to one of my first couple of videos where I talked about blowing up your 5e game world and turning it into a Pathfinder game. I explained I got into this and how the world got blown up, but those events allowed the obsidian to enter the game as an option, and of course one of my players picks it because of pictures like this one. She just was like, that's awesome, that looks badass, it looks cool, I want to play one of those. So boom, there you go. Kind of seen as evil initially, but they're not. They're just intimidating looking. Boost, charisma, flaw, wisdom, breath weapon, dark fire, immolation, psionic talent, black shell. I mean, just the names of these things are cool. Primal resistance, fire damage, of course. Let's take a look at the lore. Obsidian Wyrmseed are a proud and passionate heritage, descended from leviathans of fiery temperament. Though their ancestors were banished by Sarnics for their cruelty, they have learned to harness their ancestors' power to vanquish the forces of darkness and protect the innocent. Their scales are mirror black with seething magma orange eyes that make them a fearsome sight to behold. Although they possess razor-sharp claws and teeth, it is their sharp minds and indomitable wills that make them formidable in combat. They make excellent scouts and trailblazers, using their incinerating breath to clear tunnels, burn away debris, and create paths for their allies in difficult terrain. Obsidians are often found leading expeditions into unexplored areas of the vaults, seeking new places for those looking to escape tyranny to establish new settlements. With their deep connection to the primal power of magma, Obsidian Wyrmseed are a natural fit for those who seek to embody the power and fury of the subterranean world. Dun dun dun. They were also like the poster children of the Obsidian Dragon, who is now known as Laradress, the Dark Lady. Dark Fire Immolation. Here's their Draconic Breath. You unleash 15-foot cone of incinerating ink, black flame. Just, I couldn't really, a couple of my pictures I got close, but I couldn't get it perfect, right? It's hard sometimes for the AI to conceive of fire as anything other than looking like fire. But anyway, failed save, 2d6 damage and 2 persistent fire. The persistent fire damage can be extinguished by spending an action to douse the flames or by successfully using a heal check to treat the condition. Critical success, no damage. Half damage on success and no persistent. Critical fail, double damage. You're still taking the persistent. I don't know if I need to spell that out here. And the target is panicked. That probably should be double damage. Both the raw damage and the persistent should be up to 4 at that point. And you get panicked for a round. While you're panicked, a creature has to use all of its actions each turn to move away from the Wyrmseed, this obsidian Wyrmseed, as quickly as possible. So they're just running, screaming as they're on fire. Just a hellacious visual when you just think about it. They have a -2 circumstance penalty to all their checks and DCs. Additionally, if a panicked creature comes into contact with anything flammable, you guessed it, it ignites them, potentially starting a fire. If a flammable object is another creature, it starts taking persistent damage as above. This is brutal, right? I mean, who doesn't want to play one of these things? This is so cool. Black Shell, Psionic Talent. You can channel your psionic energy to create a temporary shell of obsidian around your body. This shell provides you with temporary hit points equal to your level plus your con mod. The shell lasts for 1 minute or until it's depleted by taking damage. So that's a lot of potential HP, right? That your temp hit points. Maybe it's too many. Again, I don't know. I have to go and feel it out a little. But it's really only a single combat that you can use it for. And once it's smashed, it's smashed. You can't heal it, you can't redo it. It's once per day. There's no, refocus to get it back. The Obsidian Resilience, once per refocus. Connection with Hellfire. Connection to the Hellfire core burning beneath the vaults grants you resistance to fire damage equal to your character level. You can use this ability as a reaction when you take the fire damage, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. This picture is just awesome. This one really captures, I think, the dark fire immolation. I mean, look at that. That's just awesome. I mean, again, DALL-E, Sal, my AI artist, beautiful work. Just beautiful work. And most of the image prompts came from Kathy, ChatGPT. So what I was doing is I fed Kathy, and she has my lore for the creature with descriptions and such. And then I asked her to create an image prompt that I can put into DALL-E that will help me create this thing. She does that. I throw it in DALL-E. It wasn't like bam instant, right? But it was good. And the obsidians actually took me the longest, just because it kept, again, the fire and the lava, the molten stuff. It kept giving those too fiery, too photographic looking, instead of just give me some fantasy art looking thing with blackish flames spewing out. It had a hard time doing it. Anyway, let's continue, right? Opal Wyrmseed. This replaces the crystal dragon. I never understood this concept. Okay, so if you know anything about the gem dragons, you got the ones I'm talking about so far. And then they had crystal. Like, aren't most of those gems crystals? So why is there suddenly a crystal version of a gem dragonborn? What is a crystal in gem terms? Right? Aren't gems crystals? Why not use diamond? I never understood that. Anyway, I didn't use diamond because I do have a whole nother set of 6 heritages for Wyrmseeds that I have as a little side possibility in a alternate universe mirror world type of scenario where the diamond would be one of the most powerful ones. Anyway, I don't want to spoil things too much, but I was looking for something clear, sparkly, that fit with what the Crystal Dragonborn's breath attack was, which was this beam of light. Opals. If you've never seen opals before, they're like just beautiful kind of rainbowy stones or crystals, whatever. Beautiful, beautiful stones, beautiful gems. Opal Dragonborn, Opal Wyrmseed. Let's go. Charisma optional, intelligence optional, prismatic beam. They've got psionic talent of beacon, and their resistance is void damage. Here's your lore. Known for their iridescent scales that seem to change color with their mood, Opal Wyrmseed tend to be cheerful and friendly, but also somewhat flippant and irresponsible. They have a great love of fun and seek to live life to their fullest, often putting their own enjoyment above responsibilities or work. They can be quite social and enjoy the company of others, particularly shorter-lived beings, and are likely to go out of their way. Let's see, I don't know if shorter living is probably a good way to state it anymore, because in the core ancestry information, they only live to be about 80 years old, so I wouldn't say that's some long-lived thing. So I might have to adjust this here or make them live longer there. This was a holdover from the original dragon stuff, which dragons live centuries. Anyway, and they're likely to go out of their way to be a welcoming host to visitors. However, they may also be somewhat careless and tend to act impulsively, sometimes leading to unintended consequences. An opal Wyrmseed is likely to place a high value on personal connections and sentimental items, cherishing the memories associated with each piece they gather. It doesn't make sense. Associated with each piece they gather to them amounts what okay, should be a comma here, comma, what to them amounts to a treasure hoard. Yeah, the comma's in the wrong place here, guys and gals. You see how just a simple little wrong comma position, like, huh? Doesn't make any sense. So they gather the stuff together, what to them amounts to a treasure hoard. They may be willing to part with valuable items to help a friend in need, valuing their relationships above monetary gain. Among the facet Wyrmseed, the opals have the greatest ability to stave off the darkness of the vaults, bringing light to the caverns in a spectrum of colors and intensities, illuminating all with prismatic effects. This talent with light manipulation draws them to careers where they can put it to good use, amazing onlookers, performers, diplomats, mesmerists. They're proud of their rainbow scales and are quick to defend their honor should it be slighted. All right, let's take a look at their breath weapon, Prismatic Beam. You exhale a beam of scintillating light in a 30-foot line. Each creature in the path has to do the reflex save. 2d6 positive damage. That needs to be vitality damage, I believe, is what that would change to in... Although, does it have a radiant damage? I don't want to know if I want to do vitality damage, because I don't think vitality damage damages regular people. Doesn't it heal you? Void damage, but it's not like, I don't know. I can look, maybe it's just be fire. I can look at the damage types again. Radiant damage would be what I would have called it in D&D terms. Positive damage, I think, was the original idea in Pathfinder. Positive, if I remember, is turned into vitality damage. But if I'm not sure, if I'm remembering, vitality damage is only dealt to like undead, non-living things. So vitality energy would heal. That could be an idea. I could turn them into like spraying heals at people. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Gotta fix the type of damage there, or make it a healing thing and only roasts undead, but that kind of pigeonholes them a bit, so I'm not sure I want to do that. Success, failure, blah, blah, blah. That's all the same. Being able to heighten the damage, that's the same. I don't know if I gotta look at the did I ever say this? How many actions it takes to originally use your breath attack? I don't think I ever said it here. Because I gotta double check, because maybe the just straight up breath attack is 2 actions. And then if you want to go for 3, you can boost the damage. I thought I had that information somewhere. I have to go double check. Alright, sorry, I'm just thinking in my own head here, talking out loud. Alright. But anyway, so it's either, maybe it should be a 2 action because it is pretty damaging, and there is the secondary effect possibilities. So I think your breath attack should be a 2 action, and then you can heighten it by spending your 3rd action to boost the damage even more, and then it goes up by your levels on top of that. So you can do some decent damage with this thing, even at like 1st level. You're able to do 3d6 damage right out of the box with these things. Okay, let's take a look at the psionic talent and the primal resistance. Radiant Beacon. You cause bright light of whatever color you like to radiate from your body in a 30-foot radius, and dim light for an additional 30 feet. Any ally within the bright light gains a +1 circumstance bonus on will saving throws while enemies suffer a -1 circumstance penalty. The light lasts for up to an hour as long as you sustain it on your turn. You can heighten the range of the light by 10 feet, spending an additional action to activate it. So again, I need to put the action economy on these side talents. Is it one action, two actions, or what? I think most of these side talents are probably just going to be a single action. I'm not sure they warrant two actions, but maybe they should so that you can't use both your breath attack and your side talent on the same turn. I'll probably do that. I would rather err on the side of too restricted than too loose. And I need to figure this out ASAP because I have two of my players are playing Wyrmseeds in the new campaign. So I need to update some of these rules so that they have, full information. Anyway, you can make the light shine even brighter. So I like that idea of being able to upscale your abilities. Opal resilience, your connection to the energy reflected off and refracting through crystals of earth grants you resistance to void damage. Originally, again, this would have been positive or radiant damage, but I don't think those exist in the remaster, so you have to go with vitality, which is the positive damage. But vitality, again, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, seems to be inextricably tied to healing. So if you granted yourself resistance to vitality damage, does that make you resistant to healing? And who exactly is dealing vitality damage out there in the world anyway? Maybe some celestial creatures? That's where, you know, it just was too restrictive. I think void damage is more of a common bad guy damage type out there. Maybe I can make this an either or choice. You can make yourself either vitality or avoid damage because maybe you're thinking I want to be a Wyrmseed that's going to go battle against some celestial types or something. So rather than making it only void, I could maybe make it either or. You choose. You can use this ability as a reaction. And I just had another thought. Maybe instead of resilience, it boosts any healing spell on you because you're going to boost the vitality energy that's entering your body. That could be another option. Maybe it gives you some void resistance and it boosts your healing a little bit. I'm talking like maybe a D4 or something. Nothing crazy. Maybe it levels up. Anyway, just throwing some ideas out there. Got to figure it out. Okay, Sapphire Wyrmseed. Entering the home stretch here. Wisdom is the boost, dexterity is the flaw, size scream is your breath attack, mind meld is your talent, and sapphire resilience is the primal resistance. Lore. As a sapphire Wyrmseed, you are adapted to combat threats, both native to the deeps and an alien from beyond the void of the far realm. I have a new name for far realm, so I have to put that in there, the Patala. With a slender serpentine body and horns like crescent blades that extend down your jawline, you're a fierce guardian of your home. Your scales are thick like plate armor in your vital areas, but remain thin and nearly translucent in your joints, allowing for unparalleled freedom of movement, a combination your kind uses to full advantage. Your Leviathan ancestors were generals in Sarnix's kingdom, capable of swimming through the earth faster than walking or even flying. While only a few Sapphire Wyrmseed possess the ability to burrow, all of your kind wield your ancestors' mighty breath weapon, a psychic wave that passes through solid defense to shatter the minds of your foes. And by the way, when I kind of drop a little clue like that, few of you still can do this, that's telling you there's going to be a heritage feat later that does give that ability. You use your telepathic powers to direct your enemies, forming a collective to coordinate your movements. Or sorry, direct your allies, not your enemies. As fierce foes of aberrant threats, you hone your mental abilities to be as keen as your blades, wielding both to shield those under your protection, lest they become far realm thralls. That's going to become important because I'm going to have aberrations out the wazoo in this new campaign. You prefer to live in sprawling tunnel networks like a subterranean hive, where your psychic influence is known to convert the very rock into semi-sentient stone that enhances your psionic abilities and weakens those of your enemy. And with your stalwart body and tactical mind, you dedicate yourself to embodying the qualities of your Leviathan sire, making you a fearsome, loyal, and protective ally and friend. Psychic Scream. Oh, look at this art. I mean, I was so happy when that one came out. I tell you, when you're doing, if you haven't done any AI art, I know some people like, poo-poo this and hate it, whatever. I'm not going to get into the debate on it, right? I'm using it because it's giving me wicked cool freaking pictures like this. You know, I don't know if it ripped this off from somebody, whatever. I don't think so. I mean, when I do like the visual searches on these, I don't see anything that looks like that. I'm sorry AI was trained on your art for those folks who put their AI out in the world, but you know, that's what happens when you put stuff out on the internet. People steal it, people use it. Anyway, Psychic Scream, Draconic Breath. That is a wicked awesome picture. You can channel psychic energy into your draconic breath to exhale a hypersonic wave that disrupts mental function in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in its path must make a will save. 2d6 mental damage. I think mental damage is a thing. I gotta double check that. I believe that's the correct Pathfinder 2nd edition term here. And then the rest of the stuff is the same as before. The critical fail debuff is frightened, and I forgot if I said what it was with the radiant beacon. Blinded. So the critical fail with the draconic breath of the prismatic beam, that is blinded. So each of the draconic breath attacks has the damage, the specific damage type, and each one adds a little debuff or control perk on top of that that's unique to that particular heritage. And again, a lot of these things you just couldn't do if you made a stock Wyrmseed ancestry like a standard Pathfinder. Imagine all the feats you'd have to have created just to put all these little flavor elements in to make it even possible to build a true Sapphire, you know, Wyrmseed based upon the Sapphire Leviathan ancestor. So I I like the way I did this. Maybe you hate it, I don't know, but just making the heritages more complex or at least more inclusive of these abilities, I thought was the way to go, and it hopefully it works out with my players. Melded Mind, Psionic Talent. You can use an action to extend your psychic abilities outward to join with the minds of your allies in 30 feet. A number of friendly creatures equal to your intelligence modifier gains a +1 circumstance bonus to perception checks and attack rolls against an enemy you can see. I probably should limit that, at least say an enemy you designate, because you might be able to see the whole damn room of enemies and they're just like beating on everybody. It should be somebody that you're able to focus on. So it has to be like an enemy you designate, I think. When you use this ability, you designate a target, and everybody that you're mind linking with here is able to target that guy with more effectiveness. It lasts for a minute as long as you sustain it. And you can boost the +2, +2, 3, whatever, as you level up. Sapphire Resilience. Your damage resistance is to mental damage because of your reserve of mental fortitude and your connection with allies' minds around you. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as the other ones. All right, last one is the Topaz. Ability boost Dex. Flaw is Charisma. Psionic Talent. Draconic Breath is Desiccation Ray. I like that one. I don't know why. It's kind of sick, but I love it. Like basically turning somebody into a mummy. Psionic Talent, Buoyant Step, and the Resistance Topaz Resilience. Let's see what the lore says. This is another great picture. I love this one. I mean, look at just the color on that and the look in its eyes. It's beautiful. The appearance of a Topaz Wyrmseed is striking with their bright... I'm thinking it might be more yellowy than orange. I was kind of floating back and forth between orange and yellow. But anyway, bright scales, piercing yellow eyes. This guy doesn't have piercing yellow eyes, so that's kind of silly. Piercing aquamarine eyes, which can make them stand out in a group. Their thin, flexible scales and water dynamic bodies make them the quickest and most reflexive of all Wyrmseed, both on firm stone and the dark waters of flooded vaults. Their primal mastery and psionic abilities allow them to unleash a desiccating blast that saps water from the air and dehydrates foes with it, while channeling the energy back into themselves to mend broken flesh. This makes them formidable opponents in combat and staunch allies to those they consider friends. While they are stunning to behold, Topaz Wyrmseed can be unpredictable. Friendly one moment, raging hostile the next due due to any perceived slight. It is said the topaz is where the term dragon fury came from. This makes social situations and making friends difficult for them. Thus, they prefer to keep to themselves and avoid interactions unless it's to dominate others. However, once bested, maybe befriended, they show a deep respect and develop a grudging friendship, or at least a peer relationship with their better. I guess it is bested. Bested at what? I don't really. That's not clear here. Unless it is to dominate others. I guess they probably just get in your face a lot, and until you just shut them down, they're just gonna keep doing it. I guess they're kind of like a bully, just sort of challenging you all the time. All right, desiccation ray. Let's take a look at this one. Again, I love this picture. Gorgeous, gorgeous art. Desiccation ray. You exhale a beam of desiccation in a 30-foot line. Each creature in the line has to make a con save, or they take negative damage. That shouldn't. There's no negative. That's got to be void damage now, I believe. I think I fixed this in the typed document. I think I need to come back and edit just this slideshow here. But anyway, it should be, I believe, void damage, although it might be heat damage. Anyway, you're drying something out. You can heighten the damage like before, blah, blah, blah. And then the critical failure is enfeeblement. So you get enfeeble 1. Yeah, there's something I'm missing here. Because you're supposed to be able to heal yourself too. Hold on one second. Let me go look this up because I know there's supposed to be healing. All right, I just double checked. I did already change this to void damage. The healing is not here in a desiccation ray. You're going to see it down here in a topaz resilience. So let's skip ahead to this real quick. Primal resistance. Your ability to exhale the void energy is coupled with an ability to channel this positive vitality into you. So you can use this ability as a reaction when you deal your breath weapons damage. So you use your desiccation ray, and then you can use your reaction to absorb some of that moisture pretty much that you're siphoning out of a target and restore D8 hit points to yourself. And this also starts to scale up as you level up. You get it back with a refocus action. I mean, I don't know. I think it was just a cool way because I didn't want this breath weapon to be too OP, so I moved that buff, that boost into the resilience down here. Because I think this is another example where what type of damage type are they resistant to? You know, you can't be resistant to vitality damage, really. That wouldn't make sense unless you're some undead creature. So I think the self-healing, the reactive healing is the way to go. I don't know. I thought it was a unique way to solve that problem. So I don't know. I don't think I've seen anything else in the book that does that. And then the buoyant step is your side talent. You're able to alter your density and weight to improve your mobility. For the next minute, your walk speed boosts by 5 feet. You can rise. You can rise from prone as a free action. Your movement speed increases by an additional 5 feet as you get at higher levels. So you get the 5-foot boost, and you're able to stand up from a prone as a free action for the next minute. That's pretty powerful, you know, in just sort of game maneuvering concept. I don't think it's too powerful, but it's pretty good. I mean, some people might just overlook this and go, oh, 5 feet, big whoop. Oh, I stand from prone, so what? Pathfinder has a lot more requirement for moving and a lot more chances for people to get knocked prone, you know, thrown on their butt. So that's going to be an important boost. All right, so there you have it, ladies and gents. Those were the 6 heritages that I created with the assistance of my muse, Chatty Cathy there, as well as my art buddy, I guess. I don't know, Sal, DALL-E. The 2 of those systems are both packaged together with ChatGPT Plus, and I just feed them my ideas and work with the two tools to really come up with some really cool stuff. So I was pleased with how this turned out. Hopefully you are too. And if you are, of course, like the vid, subscribe to the channel, post your comments below. Maybe you think it sucked. Maybe you hate the AI art. I don't know. Whatever your thoughts are, feel free to express them. That's okay. Other than that, hope you like the stuff. I'm going to follow this up with getting into the feats for all of the heritages that we just discussed, as well as come up with 12 novel ancestry feats as well. So I should be able to present like 18 first level feats by the time I'm done for these Wyrmseed. All right. I will catch you in the next video. Have yourselves a good holiday, which is coming up pretty soon, and I will probably not be putting out any video for the next week or so because of that. But enjoy yourselves and have a good New Year.